I look forward to doing these events where we sit around the fire and talk about our year, but we've got a new friend here with us.
We do.
Lena.
This is Lena. Yes.
Oh, yes.
She's a good girl.
You can come to any of the fireside chats.
You're a good girl, as long as you stay good.
Well, she hasn't attacked me yet.
Not yet. We're good.
So I thought we had a really good year. It's the fastest year I remember ever.
Yeah.
It went so fast it feels like we were just sitting here talking about this.
Yeah.
And for me, you know, I've been working so hard on product, and we've all been working so hard, not just on product, but then getting the product to everybody out in the world and making sure everybody knows what product's coming. And we're so product oriented. Us starting to make those John McLaughlin guitars and tail into the beginning of the NF53 and the Miles Kennedy guitar, and all the stuff that happened this year was just wild. I found something interesting. I was trying to communicate to someone what an artist wants in a guitar, and I realized that these rock stars, most of them are race car drivers. They want something extraordinary out of the instrument, and when the instrument sings and they're on it, they can win the race. And I started to accuse some of them of being race car drivers, and they went, that's what we are. All the parts of the guitar's got to sing, how it plays, how it sounds. And when I look at it from that point of view, all the complications of all the different parts make more sense, because, you know, you race cars, and if the transmission's not right, if it's towed in right, if the guitars aren't right, if the suspension's not right, even just the gas pedal, any part of it. When it must happen when you're driving, where all the sum of the parts are right, the thing just starts to sing around the track, right?
Yep. And the opposite.
What do you mean? What do you mean the opposite?
Well, when you got one little piece, you've got a perfect machine in front of you, and one little element's not there.
That's all it takes.
You know, I usually go into a wall. That's usually the moment where it's like, man, this thing is perfect.
Oh, I can just see now me calling Carlos at that and going, there's a little piece of this not right. You're headed for the wall.
You're going into the wall.
Oh,
man.
Really? That's going to go real well.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Actually, I've seen him do it. I've seen him wave a guitar off just like that and say, I mean, and they have their version of it, right? Or they'll get a big smile on their face, and
you know you're good.
And you know you're good, right? Yeah. It's the same kind of thing. Anyway, so for me, I'm looking at it from that point of view, and you know, most of our dealers and most of our customers have a really good understanding of what a good guitar is, and so I'm always preaching that there's a really sophisticated understanding in the market of what's good and what's not, and so you never know where guitars can end up. Come off the line, can end up in anybody's boat.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
Yeah, I think the last 2 years, the attention to detail that we put into the components has been, most people aren't going to see 3/4 of what we did the last 2 years. You know, it is that attention to detail. It's just like a race car. You walk by a race car, you don't know all the details that are in that thing.
Yeah, right.
You know, you see the shell, you see the outside, you see the colors, you see the cool, you know, exhaust, you see a lot of things, but it's all the little details inside that make the difference. And that's where we've been living the last 2 years.
Yeah. But you started out by saying this was a really fast year.
It was.
This was and it does feel like we just did this.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Like a couple of months ago, it seems like we were in here doing this before. But I think it's, you know, for me, this is, I think, the third time we've done this. This is the third. The first thing is it's nice to say, here's a moment in time. This was 2023. Here are the things that we're proud of that got accomplished in that year. Here's kind of what our world looked like during that. Here's what the industry looked like. You know, because I mean, we're going through these seasons, these business seasons, and they're going really fast too, where you're in feast, you know, and famine, and just like supply chain issues, things that we never really thought all that much about 10 years ago, or have a high impact on the business, and it's all happening very, very quickly. And it's a kind of a cool moment to be able to kind of sit back and say, this is 2023. I keep thinking, if you could go back to the 50s and have Ted talking to us, you know, on a video, if you could pick his brain, it's like 1957, 1958.
I'd love to know what was going through their heads at that time.
We had that ability to watch that with Ted McCarty or whoever at that time.
Fender.
And yeah, it would be amazing. So hopefully 30 years from now, 40 years from now, this will be interesting to people to go back and say, yeah, I've got one of those 40-year-old PRSs. This is the year that thing was made. That's pretty cool.
These are good times for us. And one of the ways you can tell is there's a real good energy in the factory. There's a good energy amongst the people. There's a good energy that we want to come and do this. But I just wanted to do an overview. That was fast. That was unbelievably fast.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I thought John Mayer wanting that dead spec Silver Sky to be available to the people that are following him in that whole Dead Company journey was remarkable. That guitar was made in a few days, the original one, to make sure that he was getting the tone he wanted that tour. And then when he said, I want to release this thing, we were like, what? I got my hands on one the other day, and I really wanted just to own one. I liked it. So that was cool. I enjoyed that. And then when we came out with the private stock John McLaughlins, those little switches on the guitar were no longer coil cancels, they were EQ switches. And that was just fun because it was a really usable tone that didn't hum. And when you hit those switches, you sacrifice some of the low end, but you gain some hum.
Right.
And this was not giving up any noise reduction. And I hope to see more of that. There's a lot of little things that these things are going to spawn over the years, but I wanted to bring up those two guitars. That was fun for me.
Yeah. When we did this last time, we had I think we're in the midst of publishing the David Grissom documentary, for lack of better words.
Right.
We did a 3-part video on how we work with an artist to develop a guitar. And it was kind of new for us because we were talking, we're publishing, here's how we design a guitar. When it came out in January, that was a good day, and I feel like people definitely caught the vision of what we were trying to do, and they were excited about that guitar. So that was a really cool way, I think, of starting the year.
When you say a good day, we got a huge amount of orders.
It was,
right? I'm sorry, it was overwhelming.
Unanticipated, honestly. So we spent most of this year catching up to that because it was just this wave of desire for this thing. But it's cool because I think because David has his passion for what he does. This is the thing you're talking about, the race car thing. It's like when it's right, and when it's right, he's on fire. And he was definitely very, very involved in that project, obviously, and very excited when we were done with it. So for this year, Mark Tremonti was huge. And how in the world Doug Sewell figured out how to make a behemoth of a 3-channel amp. A beast.
A beast, yeah.
That approachable, that usable, and something that when Mark plugged in it was like, yes, that is it. This is what I've been looking for. That was an amazing journey. That thing has been thought about virtually since the MT-15 came out. That thing has been in the conversation for a very long time.
So when we took that amp to Nashville, all these Nashville artists were plugging into it, and they kept gravitating to the second channel.
Yeah.
Which is not something I expected them to do. And I learned a lot watching them because the sound was in their hands, and that amp was delivering the sound in their hands. And I said something to Mark about it. He started laughing. He said, "Yeah, the second channel."
It was funny. Bev was there at that show, and she said it was getting late in the night. And she's like, "Yeah, the party's breaking up. Everybody's not around, And she's like going to the restroom or whatever. And she walks by the other room, and there's like 50 people in line waiting to plug into that amplifier. She's like, "Oh, the party just moved into another room. It's not over."
We changed the pickups on Mark Holcomb's guitar. But there's a lot of little things we did.
Yeah, and working with, so when we talk about Mark stuff, we did a lot of work with Seymour Duncan. I think we basically launched those projects together. That their pickup, his signature pickup, and his signature guitar with us. That was a lot of fun. It's a nice world we live in when you have a community like that of people that are, doing their own thing, but it's very collaborative too. I enjoy that a lot.
Yeah.
The thing I'm really enjoying is that it's like we're looking in two directions at the same time. There are guitars like the Silver Sky and NF53 that harken back to an earlier time, but without the problems that I personally perceive. And then the John McLaughlin guitar doesn't sound like anything
Right.
the market's heard before.
Right.
And that's really good. There are things that these artists are getting these instruments to do that we never imagined.
Yeah.
Once again, race car drivers.
Yeah.
And watching them play at the Nashville artist event was
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, what I like about what we're doing is it's the innovation word is just front and center right now. You know, we hearken a little bit back to some of the tones in our history, but boy, I feel like we're moving. If you look at it both ways, I feel like we're moving forward faster than we're
Right.
looking backwards right now.
I agree.
We're spending more time looking at the front of the car.
I agree.
And that's exciting. It's super exciting. I'm not sure the rest of the world's necessarily doing it quite to the level that we are right now, and I like that a lot.
Well, you were talking about like the NF thing being a look back, and to me, that's an interesting one because
That's looking forward. There's no hum.
It
Yeah.
is looking forward, even though it kind of harkens to looking back.
Yeah.
The approach is completely looking forward.
That's right.
Playing with that platform and thinking about other ways that can be used going forward, that
You
is
see
a
a lot of that
rabbit
over
hole.
time.
That's a rabbit hole.
And I think last year we talked about pickups and all the work we were doing on pickups, and I think we hit the TCI thing.
Right.
But one of my favorite memories this year was when you were in artist relations with that red guitar, and you hit a note, and I had my hand on my mouse on my desk, and I felt that note
thought it was an
vibrate.
earthquake.
Yeah, it was almost.
I wasn't playing any
almost like
louder.
the earthquake in the building.
And
yeah.
James Zimmers runs down the hall. He
I was
goes,
like,
"Who's
what
got
was
the octave
that?"
down pedal on?" Sorry, that's
my
not
God.
there. And was rattling his desk.
I've never experienced that before. That was unbelievable.
That's a texture. That instrument has a texture,
It has a
very
texture
unique.
to it.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So I'd just like to say off the record that our offices are next to Paul's. That's the best thing and the worst thing that's ever been.
Oh,
Because
that's a whole rabbit hole
the
to go down.
distractions that happen. The guys,
Why cut that out?
the guys playing.
That's great.
It's good stuff, man.
I'm popping my head over in your guys' offices constantly. You look like, oh, and he looks horrified, and then I'm like,
It's why I
Where are we
work from
going,
home
Bob?
once a month.
yeah, to get rid of me. That's
I could just
great.
like,
That's just
uninterrupted
great.
thought for more than
That's
45
great.
seconds. It's good.
Paul has a tap that's 5 fingers. It's like brrrp, brrrp. You're automatically saying, "Uh-oh, where's the roller coaster going right now? Where are we going?"
No, sorry. Look, the place is on fire with what's going on new, and there's been a huge amount of interest from the employees. We call it the call of the wild. You'll start
Yeah.
playing something up in Amps or in the artist room, and all these people come running down. What was that? I haven't heard that before.
Oh, yeah.
And those are proud moments for us and for me. I really like that. I think there's a straw poll inside the business that tells us how the market's going to like something or not.
Oh, yeah.
And I pay real attention to it. I went down the hall and snagged up Judy and Bev and Jim. I said, "You got to hear this one." All going down the hall, right?
So Paul will have a meeting, and he'll say, "We got to go hear this." So we'll go upstairs, and there's this lineup of people following Paul. So we started calling it mother
you're not going
ducking.
to put that on film. All right, go on. All right,
So
I'm
the
gonna tell
natural
everybody,
progression
they
is-
call me Mother Duck.
Mother Duck.
It's really awful. We're all going to go listen to something, and so I start walking down the hall,
Yeah,
and everybody
that's
follows.
the Mother Duck thing.
And now I say, "Don't do that. Either
Right.
you walk next to me, or I'm not going."
So we're in year 38, 2023, 1985. We're in year 38.
Are you serious?
Yes, I am serious. Year 38. And
I'm
here's
stunned. Really?
I think I may have touched on this last year, but I don't think it made much sense because I don't think my math was very good. But if you look at when we started and then you think about the way we grew up, Fender going in 48, and that same amount of time from Fender's inception took them to 1986. And then we started in 1985. So if you just think of it, we are 1986 Fender to us right now. And I think what's cool about that is obviously CBS happened, all kinds of things happened. The guitars changed, directions changed, company changed. We're still coming at this point of view as if imagine that interruption or disruption had never happened for them. and it was just continuous business. And we have been able to be 1985 to 2023, kind of one mission, one mindset really in all those years of chasing this thing. And I don't know, it's kind of cool to do the math and see how far along we are, because to me, it seems like we just got started sometimes. It seems very new. But
I still think we feel very small too. I mean, we've, tripled our size in 7 to 8 years.
Yeah.
But I still feel like we're the little guy swinging at the big guys sometimes.
I think we are small relative to that.
Yep.
And I cherish it, because when when you're small enough to have the agility to make an improvement or to fix a problem, it can be proactive, it can be reactive. I think we're at a nice size to where we're big enough to make an impact. We're big enough to send considerable amounts of instruments out to the world, inviting people in to play PRS, but not so big that we've lost our way. I think
we
that's
prototyped, like Paul said, we prototyped that Dead Spec guitar in 3 days.
Yeah, that
right?
was nearly instantaneous.
Paul just kind of willed it, and there it was.
Well, I had no choice. I had no time.
Yep.
You're bringing up a subject I've never spoken about, so maybe I'll just take a try at it. When we entered the market in 1985, Steinberger was big, Kramer was big, Gibson and Fender were almost not happening at all.
Yeah.
Jackson was the largest manufacturer of quality high-end guitars.
Yeah.
And I remember Grover sat me down and talked to me. He said, okay, you're going to be part of this landscape. And he and Joanne sat me down and he said, whatever you do, don't underprice me. At least we could compete straight. And you and I were going to go at it.
Yeah.
And I really admired what Grover did. I thought it was straight up, it was honest, it was acknowledging what was going on. He invited me into their sales room at the time. And I remember that it was a very different time, and the window of opportunity opened up for our company. And I remember thinking a few months later, it slammed shut. It's like we were able to get in this moment, and we were welcomed in. The two companies that welcomed us in were, of all things, Kramer and Jackson. And people forget that was what was going on.
Right. There was remember the blackboard? We had a blackboard that was above the fret level bench. And we'd do our all factory meetings in the finish hallway. And up in the upper right hand corner was us.
Yeah.
And I think we were at like 5 guitars a day or something. And it was like, this is us down here and all these company above. And for a couple of years, I guess, we were kind of like playing the game of now we're here, now we're there. And it was like a big day when you could come up one line on that board. That just made me think of that. Because a lot of the, Kramer, I remember specifically going, we'll never be as big as Kramer. That's not going to happen. That's nuts.
I didn't think that, but it was always one baby step at a time. People said, didn't you see yourself getting here? I said, no, all I saw was the next step and the next step and the next step and the next step. Because if you don't make the right number of guitars in May of 1986, you don't have a June 86. That doesn't happen, right? So to me, it was always about, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? And we had big plans, but it was all done in baby steps, right? I don't know. There were a lot of stories we could tell from the old days. I don't want to get into that, but right now, this is kind of what we dreamed about. This has been a good time. This is a good, growing, good time for us, and I think all the employees feel it, the dealers feel it, customers feel it. Things are going well. The dog thing's great. We should bring the dog from now on.
She's being great. You're being a good girl. She's not always so good.
All right, so Paul, I'm going to pick up on your the vibe of the factory right now, and I got to say right now, I think the vibe in the business is as good as it's been since I've been here. I've been here 15 years right now, and it feels good. I feel like people are bought in, and I think part of that is the investment we made in training. I mean, so we're making a lot of investment right now in infrastructure, in robotics, and CNCs, and capital equipment, and hiring the right people and engineering teams. But we're also spending a lot of our time training and teaching, which I think is, I think people enjoy that. I think it becomes much more than just a job when we get into the what's and the whys and the hows and invest that time with the people. So right now we have shop floor folks that we do sessions with regularly. We have the production management we do regular sessions with. We have the directors we do regular sessions with. And we're working on
The office people too, separately.
Yeah, and the office group. So a lot of time right now is on creating a culture of a learning organization, and I think that's a big part of why the feel and the vibe is where it is. So we get to showcase that. You know what's coming next year?
No.
Tours.
So
I
like tours.
We're going to open that up again next year. So it's been a minute since we did that. I don't think we've officially done tours since COVID.
COVID shut that down.
But once again, lots of details. We love details, so we're pretty close to kicking that off, and it's going to be a great opportunity to showcase, what we've been up to the last 3 or 4 years. The factory looks completely different than it did 3 to 4 years ago.
Say. If you took a tour 4 years ago, come back because you'll see a whole different thing.
Yep.
Which is kind of like that never-ending, search for a better way. It changes
just the innovation on components, the innovation on the factory, the innovation in robotics and CNCs. And, we always look at it as it's a great chance for us to showcase how art and technology are coming together. Yeah, another car analogy. I mean, the car analogies are all over the place today, right? But, we make beautiful instruments, but there's also a ton of technology, not only in the components, but also in how we're making them, that just gets better and better and better and better.
Processes.
Yep. And, I know I mentioned the word robotics here a couple of times. What robotics have allowed us to do is create a more consistent finish, which allows the sanders and the buffers to be less aggressive and more consistent as they're working through the guitars.
Right.
And that balance of the two is just getting better and better and better.
Which reminds me, it's almost like, I never thought about this before, but it's almost like when we went from a duplicarver to a CNC and all of a sudden had consistency. It's kind of the same thing. Now, that next step, which was sanding, suddenly got a whole lot more consistent because you had a very constant baseline.
Right, you don't have varying thicknesses throughout the guitar, so they know the pressure to put on it. It just makes it a lot easier. So I really want people to come see the tours. I mean, it's just, man, we do these tours, and
because it's fun to do it.
It's fun. I mean, we love showing the place off and talking about it and talking about all the things we're doing. And but I also, at the end of it, I always get comments of, now I understand why I paid so much for that guitar. Because they see all the handwork, they see all the love, the care, the skill that's put into these things.
Yeah.
And it just helps people understand what we are and how we are.
Where we are, where we came from, how we got here. It was all about trying to make the best instruments we could and grow a business, really. But I feel like, in a way, it was just a little bit not as choreographed as other people might do a business. It was a little less intentional somehow. Which I think is that's kind of a beautiful thing about that.
I mean, I don't want to sound too cliche, but what I've noticed since I've been here, I mean, the intentions are pure, right? It's about the product, and it's about people, and it's about doing the right stuff. And I know this probably sounds a little cheesy, but we have a 5-year plan. Yeah, we have financial goals. We have all these things. We have to manage our capital. We have to manage the business and be profitable so that we can do it again next year. But on a day-to-day basis, we're focused on product and people at the end of the day, and relationships inside and out. And it's like Paul said earlier, the music industry is actually it's an incredibly wonderful industry because it's just good people,
good community.
Good people. Jack,
hey,
can I
Paul,
put a log on?
That would be fantastic.
I would love to.
I thank you.
All right, great. Oh boy, I like that. That's fun.
It's hot.
So we now have ownership of our distribution in Japan, in Canada, in England, in Europe. And you want to talk a little bit about that, Jamie? That's
Sure.
a big deal for our company.
Yeah, so we've taken a couple steps over the last couple years. We added PRS Japan, so where we were using a distributor for many, many years. We've set up a team. Took us 3 years to get it rocking and rolling, but I feel they're crushing it right now. And it's kind of, you don't know what you don't know. You know, there were so many opportunities that have come to light, having our folks on the ground, building relationships, working with the retailers over there, and just, you know, as you say, sharing food, you know, and building a really, really tight relationship. You know, I've been over there. We've been taking, you know, half the team over there. You guys have been over there. It's just like, you know, it's just that relationship piece, just like everything else in the business, has come a long way, and we're seeing the fruits of that. So, you know, I feel like Japan is in great shape. We've had PRS GI in Europe for many, many years, but once again, great relationships throughout the entire region. And we just set up Canada. Canada has been a great investment for us, and it's just getting, you know, like the other ones, better and better and better as we're investing in making everything run a little better and investing in customer service and building relationships. But it sure is making a very, very strong, healthy difference for us right now.
You know, when you mention that, who are our distributors in Japan, who were the distributors long ago in Europe, a lot of them let go gracefully and let us take over, which I thought was very cool. The business had grown to the point where we wanted to do it ourselves. And I'm really glad of how it's gone.
The next thing that makes me think of is all the other people, you know, that are out there in that big wide world that help us to do what it is that we love to do, really. And the first one that comes to mind for me is Cor-Tek. And they have helped us tremendously in growing the PRS SE series. They've helped us tremendously with our amplifiers, you know. That's a wonderful relationship. It's beyond normal business, you know, I've said it 1,000 times, but we're definitely working in a way that I think is extraordinary, and we're aiming for extraordinary results. You know, our quest is to do something highly unusual, and that is, you know, let's make 100,000 guitars with an eye to making, you know, them as perfect as we know how to.
There's been a lot of that this year. What we've learned about how just the curly maple business works, all those logs are bird dog. People are out literally at the log decks looking for specialty logs for us to cut ourselves. All that curly mahogany that ended up in private stock didn't just show up.
That's
it wasn't
right.
something somebody just
It wasn't an
had.
accident. Yeah.
No, it wasn't an accident. You know, all that swamp ash that we use for the dead spec guitars, it's not so easy to get.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to really have an appreciation of what the wood buying team has done relationship-wise, the same way you're talking about what's going on in Japan and Canada and Europe and England. The same thing's going on with our suppliers, whether it be people making our bridges, how we're getting our woods, all that stuff. There's a real huge network. We've made immense progress with just the quality of the fretboards that we have.
Right.
The stuff is ringing like a bell. It's almost black when you oil it up. It's not easy to buy the logs. What's nice about it, for that environment, is those trees are blown over in the monsoons, and so they're collected after they were already going to die, and we figured out which ones, actually the rotted ones, are the ones that are producing the best fretboards.
Right.
But if we hadn't stood there to go learn, I mean...
and had somebody to teach.
Yeah.
And had a partnership that leads you to that
Exactly.
moment. So we launched something at PT Court in Indonesia, the Custom 24 Quilt series. And the marketing team, PRS, if you're on your social media, you're going to see a reel coming up soon, if it isn't out already, that shows, this is an example of that partnership. You have an idea. Actually was working with Matt Ariza downstairs on some two-part stain stuff, flew to Indonesia, got all of their stuff out on a table, and started experimenting with colors there. And I shot a video of a fellow named Denny, and Denny is the #1 stainer at PT Court. And we laid down these 2 colors, and what came out the other side was shocking, and it was this violet color. And that's one of the colors that we just launched this fall. But I just happened to shoot a video when he was making the first one, just for the heck of it. I wanted to see what it would look like, and it just sort of transformed into this beautiful
And
three-dimensional.
It's in the video.
Yeah,
That's
awesome.
great.
so that, and it takes, so getting back to the partner, it takes a particular kind of person that'll even allow you to do that, you know, but beyond allowing it, they want you to do it. They are excited about doing that kind of stuff and exploring new ideas and new techniques and just new directions to go in.
Yeah,
So
that relationship is well beyond a supply and purchase relationship.
Yeah,
it's an
That's
entire new level.
a
It's-
whole different
it's great.
animal.
And they're, so, you know, the engineers that we work with there and the head of production there are coming to our factory in January for a few days. We're going to explore some of the concepts that we've been working with for decades as far as neck construction goes. And then Rob Carhart and I are going to fly to Indonesia in February and see what we can implement there, you know, try to apply some of the stuff that we've learned here. So,
You know, one
I
of
love
our
it.
suppliers of parts came to us at NAMM and said, "It's my dream to make parts for you guys." And we kind of looked at him and he goes, no, it's my dream. I literally, this is what I want to do. And we made a deal, and
Yeah.
it's been fundamental.
yeah.
There's, I think, something that his company's made on almost every guitar we do.
So it's nice to kind of reflect back and say, here's what we have done, but really, I mean, it does sound kind of cheesy, but there is no way we could pull this off without the
No.
partners that we have. And
There's
I
an
think,
entire ecosystem around this business that
Yeah.
are our friends.
yeah, it's just this amazing extension of who
Yeah.
we are. And it's kind of like-minded, which is really wild, you know, when you look at people that want to get to this next level of manufacturing, and it's pretty cool. So no reflection on 2023 would be complete without a little bit of thinking about what the sales climate was like. And it was, this was a very interesting year. I guess a lot of people watching this are involved in this or hear about it a lot, but supply chain is an interesting
Yep.
beast when you really dive into it.
Yep.
And
So
when
what's your
you're-
definition of supply chain?
Well, soup to nuts, A to B, what it takes to go from inception to delivery and the length of time it takes to execute that plan is the way I think of it. And so over the past few years, we've dealt with huge demand, you know, monstrous, we'll never be able to deliver all the goods kind of demand. And then as we went into 2023, cooled out a little bit, but the way that the supply chain accordion works is, you know, if you don't respond to it incredibly quickly, you load up with inventory and stock really quickly. If you don't respond to it very quickly on the other side of it, you don't have product to ship, and you get kicked out of the nest. And I think we did a pretty good job of reading the tea leaves and responding to where we thought the market was going. But the entire, you have to play in the global market. So when I think of 2023, I think one of the things I'm going to remember is our dealers had a tremendous amount of inventory from all manufacturers. And they were having a hard time moving it and being able to accept the next thing that the manufacturer wanted them to take. And it became very noisy out there in the world. And there was a lot of 20% off this, 40% off that, 70% off this. There was a lot of chatter out there. And about halfway through the year, we came to realize that the noise was so loud, our voice wasn't being heard the way that we wanted it to be heard. And so it was not taken lightly. We have never done it, but we decided to make some noise of our own, and I'm really, really glad that we did it. So, you know, we're in the midst of that, and it's the first time that we have said, you know, go to your dealer, buy a PRS SE guitar, get 20% off. and we partnered with our dealers in a way that the best way that we could imagine doing to make them whole and us survive. And we were able to cut through that noise a little bit.
Yep.
And you know, at the end of this, we always talk about what we're kind of thankful for. I'm very thankful that our dealers supported us through that. I'm super thankful that the guitar players out there responded and heard what we were doing and took action. And, you know, it really helped us tremendously. And you know, I just appreciate that that all happened. To that end, we play a game that is not so common anymore. We have dealers, we have a dealer network, and we sell to our dealers. And those dealers have customers, and they sell to their customers. And the world is shifted into another platform where the customer is connected directly to the manufacturer. And recently, Music Inc. Had a series of articles. It was sort of their retrospect on the year, I guess, you know. And the title of the article was a picture of you holding a guitar, and the title of it was The Dealer's Best Friend. And it was basically talking about that dealers were saying, you know, this is why we think a lot of PRS, because PRS is supporting the thing that we love and that we have developed, and our business is retail. So it's one of those things that I don't know if we can keep this up forever. I don't know if this can, you know, can sustain itself for a long time, but while we can, I think it's awesome, and I think it's cool. And the heart, you know, so many of the dealers that we've known all of our working lives, you know, they've invested their life into their store. That's their world. And, you know, I like thinking that all of us kind of pitching in together can service the guitar player in a very
more holistic way.
Yeah. And proactive way.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's important. It's a big part of what I am going to reflect on in this year, I think.
And I actually feel better about where we are now than a year ago, because I felt like a year ago there was a lot of confusion in the market. There was a ton of inventory, and it seemed like everybody was hitting the brakes.
Yeah.
And it was regardless of the brand or the make or the product line or the price point, it was like the brakes were just hitting all over the place.
Yeah.
And I feel like a year later, it's a lot more surgical. It's,
Yeah.
you know, people are really looking at what brands are working, what brands are moving, what brands,
Right.
you know, are still holding price, which brands, you know, are working really hard to service,
That's right.
service the dealer and service the customer. And I think we're getting some credit for that right now, which
Yeah.
is, I think, put us in a healthier spot than 12 months ago, to be honest with you.
Yep. Sort of in that same vein of appreciation, you know, we appreciate a ton of people, and I think you were very appreciated, because this year,
No, you're not going to bring that up.
I am. This year
how
we got a
can I
phone
hide?
call, and every day that I drive to work now,
No.
I take a hard left onto Paul Reed Smith Parkway,
Yeah.
and I relish
And
that.
you had to put it on the Christmas card.
I think that's an awesome card. We put a
Actually,
guitar in
you
this
didn't-
fireplace like 15 years ago and took a picture of that for the card, and it looked like we were trying to burn our guitars. So this is much better. I think that's awesome, man. You got a Parkway.
I think we're all excited about it.
It's a
That's
Parkway.
great.
And we had a lot of fun with
That's
it too.
great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a little close up. You ready for your close up?
There's another one of those signs in my office, because we're pretty sure it's going to be stolen. We have to rebolt.
absolutely.
They bolted it up in a way that you can't get to the bolts. So
That is not a challenge to anybody.
It's
out
not
there
a
listening.
challenge. Do not
No.
take it.
Yeah.
So next year we'll
had
do
to
this
bring that up,
again.
didn't you?
No, it's a great way. It's a
That's
great way
good.
to
Yeah,
end
okay.
it. So we appreciate all of the folks that are watching this. I think all the contributions that went into keeping our world spinning the way that it is.
But kind of just like all the components of the guitar kind of come together. I mean, it's all the relationships.
Yeah.
It's the suppliers, it's the distributors, it's our teams in the different parts of the world. It's our employees, it's our managers. I mean, it takes so many people to make this whole thing work.
Yeah.
And we're just, like I said earlier, we're very lucky. We're in a good spot, and I think we're all very appreciative and thankful.
Look, there's a lot
Yeah.
of people from the marketing department doing this video.
I know.
They're not having dinner right now. They're doing this.
They're
Yeah,
working
thinking
hard.
about those
and
chicken
listening
nuggets.
you talked to me about some road I had to deal with. That's just great.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
That was
Thanks,
fun.
everyone.
Well done.